And now, it's 20 minutes of silence. Well, not literally. It's the Kirk Minahan Show, entitled 20 Minutes of Silence, here on WEEI.com.
Eric Wilbur is a columnist at Boston.com. On Thursday, he wrote a column critical of Clay Buchholz for attending a charity event in Foxwoods so soon after leaving the hospital. Eric, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. All right, so here we go. So I'm looking at this story. Read it this morning. Pool party for Clay Buchholz. Do you write I write the headlines for my stuff. Do you write the headlines for yours?
Sometimes I write them, and sometimes they're rewritten for SEO purposes. But
right.
That's about it.
Oh, right. Like when you see on Nesson.com, Kim Kardashian was nowhere to be seen at the Patriots game last night.
Really? They're using SEO with those headlines? I never would have noticed.
No, it's like Kim Kardashian and Tim Tebow did not have dinner together last night. And,
exactly.
And the Supreme Court does not rule on that. So did you write this one?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so here's my contention here with this. This is where I think you and I disagree here on this one. When I look at this, Eric, and I'll read a little bit of it here quick. You talk about, the Buchholz thing. We all know about it with Foxwoods last night, the dinner with Greg Hill, all this. You come down to it, you say, you do a Buchholz quote, then you say, I get it. It sounds malevolent to complain about a guy attending something for charity, and if he didn't drink, what's the big deal? Parentheses, it turns out, reports say so far he didn't drink anyways. And then you write, good for Buchholz for showing his support, but what an idiot. I guess when I look at Eric, I see a guy who, he was in the hospital, no question. He was in the hospital a couple of days before, the day before. He gets in the car and drives 90 miles and he sits at some event for charity, then he goes home. What's idiotic about that?
Well, I just think it doesn't show any, a lot of immaturity there, frankly. It doesn't show a lot of awareness of the situation that, maybe I should sit this one out because it's going to look bad. At the core of it, good for him for showing support. It's not like this was a planned appearance, though, because, if he wasn't on the DL, he'd be on a plane to Seattle. So I kind of don't understand the timeline of how this event came up. Maybe it was something he was told about months before and he couldn't go, and then all of a sudden it opened up that he could go. I don't know. But he's fresh out of the hospital, less than 24 hours, and he's driving to Connecticut to hang out with people and have a good time. It just shows a big lack of understanding your surroundings. But you know what? In the end, I kind of blame the Red Sox medical staff more in this whole situation.
Here's the thing. You talk about. Where's the quote here? Mind you, had Buchholz not swallowed chewing tobacco or whatever caused this bout of esophagitis, he was supposed to be on the western-bound plane following yesterday's 10-4 win over the Blue Jays. And now you're blaming the Red Sox medical staff. I mean, I look at it from a perspective of, what the hell do you know about Clay Buchholz's medical situation? Are you a doctor?
No, I don't know anything.
So why? So they may have just said, you know what, you're fine, green light, and you're not. Eric, Clay, you're not going to drink, right? Correct. You're not going to do anything physical, right? Correct. All right, well then go. Sit at the table, sign a few baseballs, and leave.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that, but they had to understand that it was not going to look good.
Yeah, but the medical staff, Eric, doesn't care about perception. That's different than say the front office.
I guess after last year, they probably should care about perception.
Well, no, but I mean, does a doctor, when clearing Clay Buchholz to go to a charity event, does he have to think about public perception when he says yes? He checks yes or no on the box.
In the end, with the way this team is running, maybe they should. They kind of.
I think if you start having medical people worrying about perception, I think that's when things get tricky. If you're talking about the Red Sox front office, if somebody calls Sherrington or Henry or Lucchino and says, "Hey, listen, Clay wants to do this,"
right?
If they step back and say, "Well, after last year, maybe it doesn't look good. You know what, Clay? We don't think it's a big deal, but probably best if you skip it." That's different. But again, you're saying idiotic because of perception. I think you're too tied into perception here. Is it idiotic on its own for Clay Buchholz last night to go to that event? On its own, is it idiotic for him to do that?
Health-wise, no.
So then what's the big deal then? Who cares?
Like I said, it just doesn't look that good. He was,
to who though? To who?
To the public.
Listen, Eric. I read your comments and I've been online all day. Did you get the general feeling that the public that you're talking about really is against Buchholz or against the Red Sox and on this one? Do you think they're really that much anti-Red Sox?
No, I thought initially that the public was against him, and then
is that why you wrote it?
Well, yeah, that was part of it.
So you thought because the public was going to be against the Red Sox, you'll write a story anti-Red Sox that'll be good for you.
Well, that wasn't all the situation, but
that was part of it.
It was part of it.
So this isn't your opinion then?
Of course, it's my opinion. Why would I write it if it wasn't my opinion?
Well, were you manipulated by the fact that you thought, hey, listen, this is public sentiment's on my side on this one? It sounds like you just said it was.
Well, no.
Well, you just said yes.
No, if I said I was leaning in that direction because that's what I thought people were talking about, and that was the public perception of this whole thing. I was clearly wrong because 90% of the fans don't see it as a big deal. You don't see it as a big deal. I see it as it's just kind of an immature move to make. He shouldn't have been there when he's 24 hours out of the hospital losing all that blood. At the core, it doesn't matter. He didn't do anything wrong, but it just doesn't look good in this.
So he didn't do anything wrong, but it's immature?
Well, yeah.
How can you do something wrong? So he didn't do anything wrong, but he was being immature by doing something that was not wrong. Correct? Correct. That's what you're saying, right? Yes or no?
What did you think when you first heard the news?
I didn't think it was a big deal. I really did. Now listen, Eric.
After what he was saying yesterday about getting dizzy and
I thought it was strange. I know. I definitely thought it was strange. And I'll say this: I reserve the right to change my mind if I find out that Clay Buchholz took one sip of alcohol, Eric. Mm-hmm. He should be absolutely blasted, and I'll be the first to do it. He should be absolutely blasted for that. But if he didn't, if it's true that he didn't, I can't. It's something. He sat in a car, went to an event, sat there, got in the car, and went. If he'd gone to see, I don't know, what's a movie out right now? That stupid Steve Carell movie, and he had dinner with his wife and gone home. Would you have made a big deal out of it?
Probably not, no.
So, that's 4 hours of his time, 6 hours of his time. What's the difference? Assuming, again, he didn't do anything.
It just looks like he went to have a good time, and he was just in the hospital for something that seemed pretty darn serious. My first inclination at getting out of the hospital is not going to be to go straight to Connecticut and hang out with my buddies at an event.
Right. No, and I do understand that. I understand what you're saying with that. But if he felt all right, if he got there, he went and he was doing something for a buddy who's, you could almost say, I'm not going to go. I read a Hardball Times post today where they said he was brave for doing this. I'm definitely not going that far. That's pushing. I'm not going to get him into John Wayne territory. Yeah. But if he wasn't feeling great, he said, you know what? I'm buddies with Hill. He wants me to do this. I'm going to go. I don't feel great. You've done that before. Go to weddings or whatever. You feel like crap. If he did that, then he did it. Again, do you think this put his health in any risk?
No, I don't.
So then who cares?
I'm not a doctor, though. I couldn't tell you one way or the other whether it's...
We have established that. That's
okay. True. Yeah, not even close. But if Greg's calling him, when is he calling him? Yesterday and saying, hey, since you're out of the hospital...
Well, no, that might have been when he went on the... who knows? Maybe it was a couple of weeks, and if he went on the DL... I've heard people bring that up. So he called him late. He was on the DL. Listen, could Buchholz have said no, and this wouldn't be happening? Yeah, but I think he looked at it, and again, he may be naive. I don't think it's idiotic, but I think he's saying, I'm doing a charity
thing. Idiotic may be too strong. You're absolutely right.
Well, you wrote it. So were you wrong to write it?
I've written a lot of idiotic things, so.
Were you wrong to write that?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe idiot was not the right thing. Maybe I should have said what an idiotic thing to do, what a moronic thing to do. But, yeah, maybe idiot's a little too strong.
Here's where, and listen, Eric, I've read you for a long time. I like a lot of your stuff, but I do get the feeling, and maybe you can correct me, starting with the Brady thing in February, there was a Gonzalez piece, and now this Buchholz thing. I do get the feeling that you're trying to create splashes here.
No, not really. At the Gonzalez thing, I still don't see what the big deal with that was.
Well, you called the guy out with really not a lot of facts. The face of a franchise with no soul.
No, that's kind of the way I felt at that point. I kind of feel like this franchise doesn't really have that that central piece. That guy that you can look to and say, There's our winning guy.
For the second time in the week, Gonzalez's failure to come through in the clutch spoke volume about the man's charisma, because he couldn't come through in the clutch. What? Is there any facts behind that? Any stats behind that?
No, it's a column.
Yeah, but you can't have any facts in there?
Of course there's
I'm a
facts
columnist.
in there.
I have facts in there. I never write. Put it this way: I never write that somebody's lack of charisma is the reason he doesn't come through in the clutch.
Yeah, It kind of spoke to the way he approaches the game and the way he was approaching.
How does he approach the game? Well, what does he do wrong?
Did you see him in the first half of the season? He was completely lost at the plate, and it was like it was like ho hum.
Did he have? He had charisma last year in the first half, lost it, and still doesn't have it. He had charisma 3 years ago in San Diego.
I don't know. I don't know what happened to him. What has happened to the player that we thought we were getting? It's not here for certain.
In the Brady column in February, which blew up a lot of stuff, you compared him to Jim Kelly. You said there was loss on him. You called him an embarrassment to the Patriots organization and Bob Kraft. Did you actually mean that when you wrote that?
No, I'm not even going to talk about that. We're not bringing that back up. That's
why.
Well,
you wrote it?
Because
I write. You can ask me anything I wrote. I'll talk about it. You can't talk about it?
I don't want to talk about it.
Why?
Of all, because it's in the past. It's done.
Well, what you wrote today was in the past too. We're talking about that.
Yeah. Jesus.
Well, no, we're not.
We're talking
about the Gonzalez thing. Was that Gonzalez thing in the future? Let me see. May 7th, 2019. No, May 7th, 2012. That's in the past.
Look, I've discussed that with people and kind of putting a clamp on that. We're not going to talk about that.
Were you right or wrong to write that?
It was what I felt. I was trying to get a rise out of a fan base that I thought was.
So you're just okay. So that's what you're doing today as well, then.
No, that's not what I'm doing.
But you do it when you want to do it. But sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't do it.
All right. Yep. That's what.
Well, no, is that true or false?
I guess so. You said so.
Well, walk me through it, Eric. I want to know. I read your stuff. I want to know.
You just said so. So
no, Eric, I read your stuff. I want to know when I read an Eric Wilber piece on Boston.com. Is it one of the ones where you're trying to get a rise out of people or you mean it? Which one was today?
But today, I just told you what it was.
Well, what was it?
I meant it.
Today, so today you meant it?
Yeah.
In February 5th, you did not mean it.
I didn't say I didn't mean it.
Did you mean it?
No, I'm not talking about this.
Eric, this is not the Lost Kennedy assassination files.
No,
this is a freaking column in the Boston.com. We could talk about it.
I'm not talking about that particular column, though.
Why?
It's over with.
What does that mean? They're all over with.
Well, because I'm not going to rise that sort of ire when it doesn't need to be anymore.
Eric, come on. Listen, come on. Are you motivated by page views? Yes or no? When you sit down and write something.
No.
You're not.
No.
Page views never cross your mind.
Oh, they
cross mine when I write a column. They don't cross your mind.
Of course, they cross your mind, but they're not my primary reason for doing anything.
Well, that's not what I asked, though. I mean, is it a factor when you sit down and write something?
No, it's not a factor when I sit down and write something. It's a factor when
I should say right when you choose what you're going to write about.
Yeah, it's when you look at reaction, then they matter. But no, at the outset.
And here's my thing, and I do the same thing you do, Eric. By and large, is that. It's tricky, right? It's tricky. There's so much out there. Listen, we could write about what a great story Daniel Nav is. It's a great story.
Right.
What a great story Scott Atchison is, right? It's a great story. But nobody's going to read it.
Right.
I mean, that's the trick. We could do that stuff all day. No one's going to read it. We got to write, today you wrote about Buchholz. Today I wrote about when are the Red Sox going to trade Ellsbury because I know people are going to read it. And there's so much crap out there. No, I don't mean, you know what I mean by crap. There's so much stuff out there that you feel like you have to get your head above the weeds, above the tall grass, right? I mean, for me, maybe you're different. For me, that's something I battle with all the time.
But it's not like I'm some rogue writer here.
I know that, but but come on. I understand you're the Globe. You're a bigger platform maybe than even I am at EI.com. I do understand that. But if you wrote about, Greg Steamsman all day, you wouldn't be anywhere, right? So, I mean, isn't that part of the problem today? It's part of the problem with me. I've admitted it before. It's tough.
I mean, you have to have an opinion in the first place, don't you? I mean, you can't create an opinion just based on someone else's thought process. So, I don't understand where we think that I'm writing something because I'm delivering it. Look, in the end, we're all delivering to a certain audience. I could write about the Utah Jazz for a week, and where's that going to get me? So, of course, you got to concern what your audience wants. At the same time, you can't write with any semblance of passion if you don't have an opinion.
I agree.
You got to have that opinion, and it's got to be sparked, and you've got to, flesh it out. So,
but that's why and you won't talk about it. It's going to make me bang my head against this wall.
Well,
again.
just because I've been through it, and
give me a minute and a half on it. I'll tell you what, we'll never talk about it again, Eric. How's that? 90 seconds and we're done with it. Okay, give me 90 seconds.
I really don't.
Okay, but my point is, you're saying that. But it sounds like to me that you sort of orchestrated that one. No.
No, it was an organic thing.
How soon did you write it? Because I wrote a column after the game as well, and I ripped Brady. Not to the strength you did. I said Brady got outplayed by Manning again in a Super Bowl, which is a big hit on him historically. If you want to put him with Montana, can't do that right now.
Right.
But how soon after the game did you write that column?
I was filtering it in my head in the final minutes of the game, and then sat right down.
Are you a Patriots fan?
Oh, sure.
So were you angry when you wrote the column?
That's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to release that anger and have. Kind of share that with other Patriots fans.
Would you suggest that probably wasn't the best platform?
No, it was terrible.
Okay, well, I mean, but there you go, Eric. Was that pulling teeth? Right? We did it. We got through it.
You did pull my teeth to get it out.
We got through it. We did it. How about this? You're going to love to talk about this, and we'll get you out of there because I'm sure you got stuff to do, so do I. There are guys, and this happens to me too, but there are guys in the Globe, on the Globe sports staff, when you write something like you wrote today, you wrote something like you did about Adrian Gonzalez, there are guys who are there every day for the Red Sox who don't like that very much. Is that something that...
you don't say.
When I sit down and write something, I have to be honest, because listen, if I do something critical of the Red Sox, I have Rob Bradford and Alex Spear, and I know those guys have to go in every day. But I got to be honest, I don't think about that when I sit down and write it, because I know those guys, they're just going to say, you know what, he wrote it, fine, whatever. They know it's not them. But how much pressure, how much feedback do you get from your colleagues when you write something like the Brady thing, like the Gonzalez thing, and like today?
Well, it depends on who they are, really.
Well, like Abraham. Obviously, I'm talking about Abraham. I don't know why. He's been super critical of you. He's very critical of Gonzalez thing. He's trashing you right now on Twitter.
I heard that. I heard that.
So what is your take on that?
No comment, I guess, is what my take on it.
We can't do the 90 seconds again? That's
No, I think I would just leave it at no comment, and if I could see his tweets, I would maybe be able to react to them a little bit more, but so we'll leave it at no comment.
A little blockage going on?
A little blockage, yeah.
I can understand that. Mm-hmm. All right, Eric. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. You're a sport to deal with me. I understand that.
No problem, anytime.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
No problem.